Hello, welcome to the Simpleton Podcast. Laura's not with me today. It is fall 2021, and I wanted to kind of give a state of the ministry update for Simple House and tell people what's going on here. I'm going to start with kind of a high-level overview. That's what I kind of work on the most at Simple House, and then we'll kind of go from high level to low level. When I worry about Simple House, I always worry about three factors. I worry about our leadership, I worry about our fundraising, and I worry about our recruiting. And I know I need to be worrying about people more and ministry more. But if those things aren't I'm kind of more in the role of if ministry's out of line, if we're making unnecessary risks, if we're doing bad ministry, then I intervene. But really, it's on our individual missionaries to do the great ministry, and I need to facilitate them doing that. I still do some ministry. I still go out to do ministry, but I'm also have to spend a whole lot more time worrying about these high-level things. The three high-level things with the leadership, I think we're in a great place right now. We've got good house leaders and good communities in both houses. Laura has taken on a much better, role with Simple House in 2021. She'd been in the background for a while, just being a mom. I'm never supposed to say just being a mom, and she's still being a mom. But now she's kind of, we've struggled with what to call her role. My favorite term is consigliere. If you've got a suggestion, you can put it in the comments or send me a note. Her role is kind of there's some spiritual kind of like keeping on the rails that we have to do at Simple House. And it's a difficult role to do, and she's very good at it. And so she's kind of the East Coast person who does that. I kind of do that out here for the KC community. I guess every person at Simple House is responsible for keeping us spiritually on the rails at some level. And then she kind of informally consults on a ton of matters here at Simple House. The other part is recruiting. We've had a huge year at Simple House for recruiting. We actually had our biggest recruiting class ever this year. I think our second biggest was a couple years ago, and maybe in 2009 when we expanded to Kansas City. Our ministry is coming up to its 20th birthday, and I've always waited for it to, in a sense, like catch fire, like become the popular kid. And at different moments, we are the popular kid, but we've never had explosive growth. And I think that's been really good. And I kind of don't wish for explosive growth. I wouldn't mind some slow, steady growth now. But what I really care about is that we do good work, that we're following Christ, and small and good is better than big and not as good. So that's where our head's at with all of that. But we're doing really well with recruiting. I think we've discovered how to approach recruiting better than we used to. But I really don't think we've discovered any secret. And whenever we have a meeting, they'll be like, why do we have such great recruiting this year? There's almost no great theories that come out of that meeting. It's like God sent them, or just keep up what we're doing because maybe it's working, but we haven't like cracked the code on it. But it's been going really well. The other thing is with fundraising. We are been very blessed with a donor that's matching every monthly gift to Simple House. He's been doing it well over a year now. And it's really encouraged new monthly donors. Like if you come give $10 a month, it becomes $20 a month. If you give 20, it becomes 40. If you give 100, it becomes 200. If you give 1,000, it becomes 2,000 for a whole year. For the first 12 months of your monthly gift, it's matched 100%. And if you already are a monthly giver and you give more, he also matches that. What's cool about this is it's created a shift in our ministry to, instead of just being this kind of emotional, like I want to give to Simple House and we get a ton of donations all at once. It's given us a lot more kind of steady support. And I think it's also invested our donors more. Instead of just waiting for that emotion to come over them, it's kind of said, hey guys, is this the type of work you want to see in the church? Is this what you want to support in the church? If you do, please make a commitment. And this has helped us in a lot of ways. I feel way better about running our ministry than I ever have because of this shift towards the monthly donor model. We're still built almost entirely on small donations. I like that also. If you want to give a big donation, please do. I'm going to tell you about a big donation here in a second. But I think it's better for us, it's better for the church if there's a whole bunch of $20 donations than a few enormous donations that fund a ministry. Makes us braver in a sense, and I think it makes us more grassroots in a way that I appreciate. This year we had, besides our matching donor, who's a big donor, but we also had an old donor pass away this year. And I don't think I've told this story on the podcast yet, but many years ago, when Simple House was pretty young, I was doing all the IRS filings myself and, in pen. And we had a mysterious donation come in between Christmas and New Year's, and it was like for $30,000. And I had never seen a check that big before, and it was from someone I'd never met. And I was living in D.C., running the D.C. house, and it wasn't from D.C., it was from Dallas. I didn't know what to do. I was cleaning the house after Christmas. Christmas is a huge, kind of workload time at Simple House. So after Christmas, you're kind of just trying to get yourself back together. And I was just cleaning the house, just resting mentally. And this donation comes in. I didn't know what to do with it. So I just kind of laid it on the table, tried to come back every hour to make sure it was real. And then I was like, okay, if this is real, how do I thank this person? Couldn't think it through, I didn't know, what do you say for a random stranger gives you that amount of money for the ministry, I ended up, doing nothing for 2 days. And I finally got this call, and it was like, did you get our check? And it was from a great guy. Chip Nichols was his name. He passed this year. And I ended up going to meet him because my parents were living in Dallas at that time, and him and his wife were great. They were great witnesses, just a beautiful couple. At that time, they were doing marriage prep in their parish, and I would have loved to go to their marriage prep. They were hilarious and very inspiring as a couple. And Chip just said they both were accountants, and Chip said that he had just been sorting through forms on the IRS website, looking to make a one-time special donation, saw our 990 filing, was impressed with the way we said our mission was and the way we spent money, and just sent us $30,000. Which is kind of a very random act of super generosity. So it was great. I kind of didn't keep up with them that great over the years, but they've always been special to me because of just how kind of changing that donation was for the ministry at that time. And he passed away this year. And once again, just like the first donation, we get a check for an enormous amount of money that I don't even want to say, and bigger than the first donation. And it was his wife, Deborah, saying that he had passed, and she was making this donation in his honor. And it's a donation that we want to use to expand Simple House. And it was just a huge blessing. And it also confirmed we were already talking about expanding, and it was always like, okay, we have no excuse. We need to do this. We still need some more money. It's not enough to cover an expansion, but so if you contacted us and we ask for a donation, don't think we're double dipping or something like that. I don't know what the right expression is for that, but we're going to need a little bit more to make this new house work. But it set us up where we have this chance to have a new experiment in Christianity. Experimenting is one of the kind of key ideas of Simple House. And I think to understand our expansion, you have to understand this idea. And I kind of want to tell everyone about this idea so so what we're doing makes sense to you. My goal with Simple House has always been, no one has ever really figured out how to be the perfect missionary. No one has ever really figured out how to perfectly serve the poor or be charitable, or no one's even figured out the perfect social justice, and I want to let people dare to try to figure that out. And if you look at and that's true for every missionary who comes to Simple House. Like if a missionary is at Simple House and they come to me a few months later and they go, I don't really agree with the way we do things here. I'm like, or the way we're doing ministry. And I'm like, okay, that's your fault. What do you want to do? Like, this is kind of your ministry. Like, this is your year to be a missionary. You should be doing the missionary work you want to do. All you have to do is pass it by us, and we are trying to say yes to everything. Like, we're trying not to let people take stupid risks, and we're trying not to lead anyone astray. But if you come up with a crazy idea, well, we're okay with you even failing. Try it. Let's try this. And when you see so every missionary kind of has a different experience here, but also each house is a little bit different. Like if you visit the Kansas City house, you'll notice there's probably more homeless outreach here in this house. There's more, a different feel to the house. You go out and visit the DC house, which Chelsea's running, you're going to feel a different kind of vibe there too, and a little bit different emphasis in ministry. And if we expand, I want to even have a third vibe. I'm not trying to, I don't think it's that, like when we find something that works ministry-wise, we do recreate it. We do it again and again, but we're always trying to expand that which we do, right? So we haven't come up with a cookie cutter. I think the way, if you wanted to expand quickly and fast, is you'd say, here's our program. Here's exactly how we do ministry. Now we can reproduce it and we can teach you how to do it. And you just follow these, 10 rules and you're ready to roll, And we're the anti-program ministry. We try to lean into knowing people personally, finding out what they really need, trying to listen to God as how to meet that need, and feeling very free. Like if someone ever says, well, we're doing it this way because that's the way I was taught to do it. I'm like, you need a better reason than that. Always having done it is not a good reason to keep doing it. So I'm really excited about this expansion possibility, even to see kind of a new incarnation of this mission, which hopefully is Christ's mission. So to me, that's the big picture. I don't want to talk too much about where we're thinking of expanding or an exact timeline for that. It's too much in flux. I don't think it'd be it's ready for public discussion. The other thing is talking about the actual ministry we're doing. It's hard to ever talk about the actual ministry we're doing except in terms of stories. Whenever I get someone who's a donor or just someone who's trying to evaluate our ministry and they want to know the statistics of what we do and how much of this and how much of that we do, I don't know what to say, because it's like, I can sum up everyone we fed, I can sum up everyone we sheltered, I can sum up the bills we paid. And if you knew all those stats, you might be impressed, you might not be. But either way, you will have no idea what we do. I think the only way to understand what Simple House missionaries are doing is to either experience it firsthand or to hear a story where they're trying to explain what happened. And if that story hits with you and strikes a chord with you and you kind of get it and you're like, that is the good news, that is what love looks like, that is valuable inherently, then you get what we do. And it doesn't necessarily matter how many people we fed. So it's also hard to summarize. Like, we've served this many homeless people, this many families. Every once in a while I try to characterize about how many families we outreach to in a month. Like a house might do 30 families, or which maybe comes up to about 150 people. You count the homeless, maybe there's, you figure out how many homeless camps, how many people you're going deeply with, how many people you're occasionally seeing, how many people you're seeing 3 times a week versus, once a month versus once every 3 months, people you've known 10 years as a ministry, people you've known 1 week, So it's really hard to summarize. 2 things I want to mention that kind of stand out is 2 really sad things happened in the ministry pretty recently. By the way, backtracking a little bit, we did have training out here in Kansas City, which is always a cool time. We call it revival as opposed to retreat. We bring all the missionaries into one place, get to hang out together for about 2 weeks, and we do our training. which it's kind of, we call it revival because it's kind of a party mode. It's a lot of feasting and a lot of like, hey, this is what we're all about. Let's do this activity and figure this out. Let's do this. And we do a lot of talks on kind of a very applied theology. And then the other time of year we get together is usually retreat, which is a much more serious, not feasting. It's more fasting. It's silence. It's fewer talks, much more personally going into, we usually do it at a monastery. During COVID, we had to do it at a state park. It's just a different vibe at that, we're trying to get a little bit more of missionaries seeing the different locations. So I think Kansas City is visiting the DC community this month. I'm not going on that trip, but all the new missionaries, many of them never seen the DC houses, are going to get to go out there and be with the DC community and do some ministry and just kind of see a bigger picture of what Simple House does. So two kind of serious things that happened. One was a kid I've known for a very long time was murdered. He's not a kid. He's a 30-year-old man. And, but I've known him for over 15 years. And I remember like helping his mom enroll him into high school. I remember going on barbecues with him and stuff. And it was a very non-typical, every murder's tragic, no matter how you get yourself in that situation. This just was very non-typical. It was kind of street violence, but usually don't have 30-year-olds getting hurt by street violence. And the mom, my heart goes out for her. Please pray for her. Please pray for him and his soul. Wish the best for that family. We've known them for a very long time, and they've been a family that's helped the ministry. They've cooked for our missionaries. They've just been a beautiful family. And this is the second son. The mom is lost to street violence, and in both cases, it was just very non-typical, extra tragic. I don't know why a non-typical death seems extra tragic, but it does to me. Part of what's going on here is murder has gone sky high in our nation since 2020, and I don't know what the cause is. I think it's alarming to me that it's not being publicly discussed enough, that it's not considered a national emergency. That last time I looked at the figures, it looked like murder had gone up between 20 and 30% in 1 year. And I don't know if I need to do a deeper dive on this. I hope to do a deeper dive with Laura sometime as a podcast, but I don't know if it's going up dramatically more in our neighborhoods or if it's an even rise nationwide, but it's very alarming as someone who's trying to be a missionary that this is happening, and should be alarming to all Americans, I think. And at the same time, homelessness has gone up dramatically. Not like 20%, but like 100%, even here in Kansas City, where I'm not going to say the lockdowns are the cause of the increase in murder and the increase in homelessness. I think we actually need to look at data and try to figure that out. But Kansas City did not lock down very much, and we had like 100% increase in homelessness in the last year. And that's just an off-the-cuff measure based on us doing missionary work with the homeless. But if you told me it was a 200% increase, I'd be like, sure. I can't tell you it wasn't 200%, So it's just wild that as a nation, we're not thinking alarm, alarm, alarm on this. So please pray for Michael, who passed. Another thing that happened in our ministry was a girl, an African immigrant who was very American. She'd come over when she was kind of young. She's been a good friend of different missionaries at Simple House. She went missing. We did a search with the family, and it appears to be a suicide, and we're praying for her. We're going to have a funeral for her and the family at the cathedral tomorrow. And please pray for that family, particularly her sister and brother and parents who are here. And it can be very, mental illness is complicated, and also being lonely as an immigrant is very complicated. And I think I'd like to also have a longer podcast on suicide, because I've got some complex thoughts on that I feel like a lot of lives, probably most people listening to this podcast, have been affected by suicide in some way. And I think the proper reaction to it's kind of complex, I guess, but that also happened. Overall, the mission work seems to be going really well. I'm pretty proud of, I don't know if proud's the right word. I'm very encouraged by what I see our young missionaries doing. And we just have a great communities right now in both houses, and they seem to be doing great work. And please pray for our missionaries as they go out into the neighborhoods, into people's homes, and meeting the homeless. And thank you for all the support of this podcast. I'm looking for more feedback on this podcast if you want to give it. And Laura and I will come back soon with a new episode. So until then, God bless, and please pray for Simple House, and please keep supporting this work. Thank you.